With the first pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select.
In Las Vegas, site of the 2022 NFL Draft, just off the Las Vegas Strip in the Bellagio Fountains. And we welcome you inside Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. The DUUUVAL Draft Party is underway. The gates are open. We're about 30 minutes away from the NFL Draft. And welcome in JP Shadrick with you on draft night. Glad you're along with us on Jaguars.com and Jag social media as always. For the second straight year, the Jaguars have the #1 overall pick and the pick of the litter of all NFL prospects. But let's hope it's the last time. But while they're here, they might as well take advantage of it and select a cornerstone player for years to come. We got plenty ahead on our coverage here on draft night in DUUUVAL, including General Manager Trent Baalke in the draft room earlier. Head coach Doug Peterson making his first draft with the Jaguars. We'll hear from NFL Network analyst Bucky Brooks, of course, and senior writer John Oesher joins us now. All the pre-draft hype, the mock drafts, the questions in the ozone. It's all over now because the Jaguars pick in about 30 minutes.
Well, isn't this something, JP? I can remember covering this draft when it was just me and like a little hole in the stadium, and now you're out here with all these people. It's incredible. And, you know, something you alluded to at the top, it's the second straight year for this team. You sure hope it's the second and that's the end of the streak. But what a difference it is from last year to this year in this sense. Last year they may have had the easiest selection of the last 10 years, and it's on the Rushmore of easy selections of all time. Trevor Lawrence, maybe Elway, maybe Peyton back in the day, an easy pick that you probably knew since Trevor was what, in like 7th grade?
That's right.
That was happening. Now you fast forward to maybe a historically difficult choice. If not difficult for the Jaguars, then difficult for us to analyze. I'm not sure I remember a year where you were legitimately going into the last day thinking maybe the team didn't know. Certainly nobody around the country knows. I see guessing. I'm getting texts from media people that I know, hey, I think it's this, I think it's this. I've gotten like 4 or 5 different people texting different things. So it is an incredibly difficult draft to prognosticate if you're a Jaguars fan. But guess what? In 25 minutes, we won't have to prognosticate anymore.
Well, let's hear from the guy who is making the pick tonight. It's General Manager Trent Baalke. I caught up with him in the draft room earlier today. He said they had their final meeting with Jaguars ownership last night. They pared it down from the Final Four last week to the pick about to be made in less than 30 minutes.
You live in the moment, and the moment we're in now, this is the draft. These are the available players, and you do everything you can to find the right players for this organization, for your own organization, and then you go to work and you make them right.
That's it. The full interview available on Jaguars.com and Jaguars social media with General Manager Trent Baalke. And, you know, usually this time of day going into a draft, you'll hear about, a trade here, a team wanting to move this or that. Well, John, the Jaguars have not received truly many or any calls for the #1 overall pick. It seems a little abnormal in that sense today.
Well, I'm a writer, JP, so I'm a big cliche guy. I don't know if you know that or not about me.
I'm aware.
I love the cliche. There's a cliche, no news is good news. Well, that's wrong in this case for the Jags. I think they would have loved to have had news sometime in the last few weeks that some team was calling them for a trade. I think they would have liked that option, at least to explore it. From listening to Trent Baalke last Friday, they had gotten nothing really at that point. The vibe is that hasn't changed. So I think in 25 minutes they'll use that #1 pick. I think they would have loved to have had a chance to trade it. It just wasn't the year for that, though, JP. I mean, you had no real quarterbacks at the top.
That's right.
Some of the top guys felt sort of similar, and they were at positions that people don't really move up for. So maybe they'll get a call. I don't think Trent Baalke's blocked anybody. I think he would take the call. I just don't see it happen.
Well, last year we knew exactly what the number one pick was going to be. As you mentioned, Trevor Lawrence ended up being that pick for the Jaguars. Well, this year has a little bit of a different feel. So what should the number one overall pick look like? What should that player in person feel like for an organization?
Well, I think it's going to look right tonight because it needs to look like a stud, if you will. It needs to look like a guy that you could say, hey, I can see that guy being elite for a long time. What it needs to look like in terms of performance, it needs to look like a guy who can make a few Pro Bowls minimum, who can be an all-pro guy at some point, and who can look like a guy. Cam Robinson just signed long-term, right?
Yes.
They need more of that. Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson talk about that. Well, the number one pick sure needs to be a guy that you look at and think, you know what, I could see him re-signing in 2025 when that's a thing. He needs to be a guy that you're dead sure on. We're going to re-sign this guy, do whatever it takes. He needs to be a franchise core type player and needs to be a multi-Pro Bowl guy. I don't know if that's there. You never know that, but it needs to have that feel.
Let's move now to this past Friday at the Jaguars media luncheon pre-draft. General Manager Trent Baalke said then the Jaguars were down to 4 players they were considering at number 1 overall. Here's our best guess at those 4, starting with Michigan defensive end Aidan Hutchinson. He was the Heisman runner-up a year ago, the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten, and what a season it was. 14 sacks. The Michigan defense was fantastic. Well, he led them to the Orange Bowl, the College Football Playoff National Semifinal. Hutchinson explained what a team would get if they selected him tonight.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. It's something that definitely I've been thinking about for a while. But wherever I go, they're going to get a great player and someone who's bought into the team. I put myself in the best position to be picked at that spot. But at the end of the day, it's not my decision.
Well, Hutch has been the top of many mock drafts throughout the pre-draft process. What do you think of him?
Well, NFL prospects don't get their jobs by Indeed, right? But if you did, this would be the guy. Meaning you would look on his profile, you'd see bullet point after bullet point of what I've done. The resume is great on this guy. Second in the Heisman Trophy voting. Michigan sack record 14. AP All-American, Defensive Player of the Year. All those things you look for. If they draft him, it'll be easy for the fan, it'll be easy for the team to look at and say, here's exactly what he did to earn this. That's what he is. He's production, and there's a lot of people who believe that if you're a sack guy, you need production to translate to the NFL. He's that package among these top 4. If you're looking on Indeed.com, he's your guy.
Broke his leg in 2020, missed most of that season, but came back with an outstanding year, of course, and really capped it off in the regular season with the game you're looking at here at the Big House against Ohio State in the snow. And he put on a show that day, and the Michigan Wolverines finally got a win against Ohio State, and he was a big reason why they ended up going to the Big Ten title game and then, of course, on to the College Football Playoff as well. Now, we move along to the team that defeated Michigan in that national semifinal. The University of Georgia and Travon Walker, the defensive lineman on that great national championship defense. Of all those great players on the team, he logged the most playing time of any Georgia defensive lineman last season. 56% of the snaps. It was in a number of different roles, 6'5", 270. And of course, Walker is one of those guys that has shot up mock drafts after the scouting combine performance at Indianapolis. Daniel Jeremiah was there to see that on NFL Network, and he explained Walker's best traits.
You're starting with a dominant run defender who can play on the edge. He can really move anywhere along the line of scrimmage that you want. I think if you say what can he be and what's the ultimate upside, there's a chance he could be the best edge rusher and the best defensive tackle in the same draft. So that's the kind of ability that he has.
There's Travon Walker for you, John, and a lot of question marks.
Well, there are, and I think the question marks sort of get answered when you look at what we just saw. When NFL people look at this guy, it's easy to look at his agility drills, the 40, all that stuff, and say, wow, what an incredible athlete he is. The questions on him, unlike Hutchinson, never really had the huge season in college. Some NFL teams like production with sacks. They believe that translates. That's what he doesn't have yet. That said, in talking to people, if he doesn't have the numbers, what he does have in college that you've seen, there's a perception with him that he's all workout and that he hasn't produced. When you really watch Georgia, that's not fair to him. He really hasn't produced sack numbers. But in terms of producing and playing at a high level in college, this is not a project player where you haven't seen him play at a high level in college. It's just a matter of, do you trust that the sacks will come? That's the big question with him.
He can be a disruptive player. Let's move now to the offensive lineman and go to the team that lost to Georgia in the national championship game, Alabama, and left tackle Evan Neal. In fact, he played 3 different positions in Tuscaloosa, 40 starts over 3 seasons, a consensus All-American a year ago, and in Las Vegas this week explained what it would mean to be the #1 pick.
It'd be amazing, man. Being a small-town kid and also offensive lineman, offensive tackle, that doesn't happen very much, and it'd just be an extremely gratifying feeling, I'd imagine.
I would say it would be gratifying. The last Alabama #1 overall draft pick in the NFL draft, John, 1948, Harry Gilmer, the jump passer extraordinaire. It's been a while.
That's the Harry Gilmer to you, JP.
Correct.
That's an amazing stat, by the way, but when you look at Neal, if you're a GM or a coach and you're looking at him, you want to be able to put your head on the pillow tonight and know that you got a player. Boy, it's hard to imagine him not being able to play left tackle in the NFL. I don't know if he would play that here with what happened with Cam Robinson this week. Who knows where they would fit in. You can put him somewhere on your line and he will play at a high level. That feels, everybody's talking about Hutchinson being safe. Evan Neal feels just as safe on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if that's the pick or not, but you would feel safe with him.
And one other note, by the way, Joe Namath was the #1 pick in the AFL draft in 1965. Different drafts. The leagues had not merged at that time. We finish off with Ikem Ekwonu from NC State, a big physical player, unanimous All-American a season ago, first team All-ACC, a finalist for the Outland Trophy. This would be one for the history books for the Wolfpack left tackle.
Just legacy-wise, mean a lot to me. Only be one of 3 NC State players to go #1 overall in the history of NC State. One of the first linemen to go #1 overall in the last almost decade. So, just history-wise, it means a lot to me. I'm really just excited to just hear my name called, wherever that is, and just finally just know.
What a player, and what a guy off the field, too, in Ekwonu. Your full package.
Well, all these guys are. I keep hearing about all the risk involved with these guys. I get that you don't really know about these guys, but when you look at Ekwonu, the more people you talk to around the league, they're convinced this guy is going to be a very good player. I don't know if he's the #1 pick in the draft, but there are a lot of people who believe he's the best lineman. To me, he's sort of the Travon Walker of the offensive side of these two, meaning when you put on the tape, you see things that make you go, wow. Is there a little bit of a risk, a little bit more of a risk than Neal? Maybe a little bit more. But I'll tease a little bit, JB. I'm going to pick this guy as I think he's going to be the pick.
Okay.
It's going out on a limb a little bit. I just kind of have a feeling they're going to try to build the offensive line. This kid's nasty. He's a great run blocker, and he's versatile enough. He's versatile enough to play anywhere on the line. You can use him quickly in a lot of spots.
Well, those are our best guesses at #1 overall. Let's head now to Las Vegas, Nevada, and if anyone was made for Sin City, it's senior correspondent Brian Sexton, who reports from the Las Vegas Strip.
Well, you can see behind me the area here in the NFL Draft Experience is beginning to fill up. It's a kaleidoscope of NFL jerseys. Fans from all over the country have made their way to Vegas, the showtown of all showtowns, and they're all expecting something. For Jacksonville, we don't know what to expect at this point. No one that I've talked to all day has any clear-cut indication of what the Jaguars are doing. The drama is thick. It's going to be a fun evening. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. You'll hear from Brian Sexton throughout the night in Las Vegas. He'll have the first word with the Jaguars' first-round pick, a live look inside Daly's place at the DUUUVAL Draft Party. We're closing in on the NFL Draft, and who better to join our coverage than NFL Network analyst and former Jaguar Bucky Brooks. Happy draft night, Bucky.
Man, I'm so excited. The energy in the spot is nice. I hear you talk about concerts, but you didn't tell me that the draft party would have so much energy and excitement.
Duval, baby.
Even
Duval,
Jay,
baby.
look, even J.O. he's excited.
See that smile. You
Look
can't
at
fake
it.
that.
Yeah, I cannot wait.
You can't fake that at all. Of course, guys, before we get to the draft tonight, it's been a busy offseason around here. More change for the Jaguars. But it started with the hiring of head coach Doug Peterson. He's been involved in the league since 1991 as a player, and the Andy Reid tree as an assistant, Super Bowl win with the Eagles. Bucky, you played with this guy. What kind of person, what kind of coach are the Jaguars getting?
One, he's a player's coach. I think you can tell he's a relationship builder. The number one thing he's going to do is build a relationship with the players so they can build the trust that's necessary to compete at a high level. When it comes to X's and O's, he's a bright mind, but what he is able to do is take all the pieces of the puzzle and put them in positions that work to their strengths, particularly with the quarterback. You look at what he was able to do with the Philadelphia Eagles on a run to the Super Bowl. He changed styles with different quarterbacks to be able to get it done. I think his adaptability and flexibility will be a huge asset as he turns this program around.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The culture that he has changed around here, you can feel it. It's significant. Even down to the coaching staff. JP, you and I have gotten a chance to get to know some of the staff. It's a professional football staff. It's different than last year's staff in that sense. It's hard to overestimate the different feeling that Doug Peterson has brought in here in, 2 months?
Yeah,
3 months?
Not long.
So who knows how it's going to play out, but to me that gives you a chance. The players are going to believe in this guy and this coaching staff.
Well, Doug Peterson can also, yes, hype up a locker room, but he can also hype up a crowd. He spoke to the crowd here at Daly's Place a little bit earlier. Take a listen.
I truly believe, and I think this is where Trent and I are on the same page with, and the organization. When we draft guys, we want them to stay here forever. We want to finish their career right here in Jacksonville, and so we want to get them to their second contract. And so it's for us as coaches and personnel, we have to do our job in evaluating in the talent and the searches and everything that we can do, because we want those guys to stay here. We're not grooming them for other teams. We want them right here in Jacksonville and playing for the Jaguars.
Pretty cool stuff there from head coach Doug Peterson. A live look now inside Daly's Place. There are some Jaguars players on stage. I think Shaq Griffin's out there, one of those. Bunch of defensive guys. It's Ray Sean, I think, and we got
Andre Cisco.
Yeah, Cisco's here. I mean, it's a great crowd tonight. A fantastic crowd in the stands too here at Daly's Place for the DUUUVAL Draft Party. So, free agency filled some needs in the offseason program. They spent a lot of money, obviously. But a GM's job is never done, guys. Bucky, what would you say are some needs left to address in the next 3 days of this draft?
Well, obviously, they need to get an A-level pass rush to go opposite Josh Allen. That is mandatory. You have to be able to do that. Second level of defense, linebacker that can run and chase. But I'm going to say this, speed, speed, speed. The best teams are fast. You got to be able to be fast, because having speed allows you to erase some of the mistakes that takes place. Has to be a faster, even more athletic team.
Look, we talked a little bit. I'm fascinated by linebacker in this draft. They have addressed that position. It still feels like, I know they've got Shaq Quarterman, they've got Chappelle Russell, but is there going to be a spot for the other inside linebacker? And if so, where do you get that in the draft? What level? I don't think you have to get it day 1 or day 2, but where do you need to get it?
Yeah, I think day 2 is a good spot. Second and third round, good, because there's some really good guys, really talented athletes. Guys like Troy Anderson from Montana State will be available. Chad Muma from Wyoming will be available. These are guys that, even if they're drafted later in day 3, they have talents and abilities that would enable them to come and compete for a starting spot.
All right, we're looking forward to that. We'll hear, Bucky, from you throughout, of course, our draft coverage. Take a live look inside Daly's Place. And a packed house, players on the stage. This is the place to be on draft night. And, boy, what an electric atmosphere tonight here at Daly's. And we're looking forward to see who the Jaguars pick. So our final thoughts here include just that. Who will the Jaguars pick at number 1 overall, John Oesher?
Well, I'm going the Icky Shuffle. I mean, I get that they just did a deal with Cam. I wasn't really on this train for the first couple of months leading up to this. But the more I look at it, I think, are they going to just try to build this offensive line, build, as Bucky likes to say, the fortress around the quarterback? You can put him anywhere. You don't have to play him at tackle immediately. Something just tells me that they're going to try to build that offensive line. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going with that for right now.
All right, Bucky Brooks, what you got?
Well, I talked about pass rusher, and I'm going to go with them, meaning the Jaguars, take a chance on the upside. So let's go Travon Walker from Georgia. One of the reasons why is he's a super athlete. Freak athlete, played on the national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw him play more snaps than any other person on that defense on the front line, and the versatility. gives Mike Caldwell a chess piece to move around on that front line.
I'm going to go, thank you for the picks, by the way.
No problem, JP.
I'm going with, and I've changed this 4 times in the last 2 weeks, but I think I've stopped on Aidan Hutchinson. Why not go with a safe guy, the guy who's done it at the high level in the Big Ten last year, the Heisman runner-up. Aidan Hutchinson is my pick at number 1 overall, and we'll see what the Jaguars, which one they decide on in about probably 15 minutes.
And funny thing,
so.
JP, I have no idea which one of us is right. I'm not even leaning any different way.
Yeah.
This is the weirdest one I've seen in a long time.
It's so strange, Bucky, isn't it?
I mean, it's odd. Normally you would start being able to read the tea leaves by this time of the day. Nothing has come out. So who knows who's going to be the number 1, but we're going to celebrate him because he should be a really good player.
All right, that's our coverage for now. Getting ready for the draft in Las Vegas at the Bellagio Fountains. What a beautiful day in the desert. And boy, what a night it's going to be here in Jacksonville as well at the DUUUVAL Draft Party. The crowd is hyped. The pick is apparently chosen by the Jags. They've decided it at least. They'll pick it officially here in about 15 minutes. Our Jaguars.com coverage presented by Cadillac. We'll have instant analysis of most of the draft picks here on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars social media channels. Enjoy the draft. We'll talk again in just a little bit. It's draft night in Duval.